All right, we are here with Justin, who just won our Lorcana Store Championship. Justin, what were you running today?
I was running Amber Amythyst Aggro.
All right, what was your record before top?
3-1-1.
Nice, nice. And how'd you feel about your matchups?
Most of my matchups today, I played against a lot of Ruby Amethyst. Those were fairly simple. I played one green steel, that was my loss today, and then I drew out before having to deal with a Amethyst steel.
Nice. All right, well, let's go over what you got and why you were playing it.
All right, so I've got 4 Pascals. Pascal's just, you know, solid quester. You can lay it down turn 1. And then regardless of what the opponent does, you're almost always going to be able to just play something else and it's not going to get hit by anything. The only counter to that really is fire the cannons on turn 1. So that's just a solid quester there. I've got 4 Olafs. Olaf here is sort of a flexible spot. The original list that I was looking at had 4 Chernobog followers, and instead of that, which I found I very rarely ever used the effect, I wanted something that might live to like let the Storm Rage on, for example. And so that was my substitution there. Then I've got your typical suite. I've got 4 Lilos and 4 Maleficents. Those are just our regular hyper aggro cards.
Good set 1 stuff.
Good set 1 stuff coming back. And then I've got 4 Kitas. And we'll get to her in a little bit, but the Shift Kita in a aggro deck is very strong, it turns out.
All right.
Then I've got 4 Piglets. Piglet almost is always going to quest for 3 in this deck. He's inkable. He's just one of the best cards in the deck.
I heard that's your favorite card in your deck?
It is the favorite card in the deck. Big Winnie the Pooh fan from my childhood. We've got 4 Snakes. The Snakes, sometimes you're just going to go Lilo or Maleficent turn 1 and you want to protect them with a Snake on turn 2. That's a little bit of a slower start. Sometimes you'll like to go Pascal double 1-drop on turn 2, but Snake is there in case you don't have that sort of option. Then you've got 4 Simbas. Again, set 1, just protect those 1-drops, protect your strong guys. We've got 4 Pinocchios. Pinocchio, just extra copies of Piglet. I'd almost always rather have Piglet over Pinocchio, but every so often, you know, just redundancy there. And then I've got 2 copies of Sleepy. Sleepy was probably my least favorite card in the deck, but it's inkable. It's a 2/3 that quests for 2, and it only costs 2, so it's not the worst card that you can put in that spot. Other cards there could be like Wingy Darling, for example. I've got 3 Baloos. I think Baloo is probably one of the stronger cards in the deck. It's a bodyguard, which this deck sorely wants. It's going to gain me at least 2 lore. If I don't need its bodyguard, I'll just play it regular, and then in that case, it's almost always going to gain me 3 lore. It's just a good card that's going to get me a lot of lore, and it's going to protect the things that need to be protected. I've got 3 Arthurs. I don't think that the deck needs more than 3 Arthurs. It might not even need 3 Arthurs. It might be better to just have 2 Arthurs, 4 Baloo, but you can take your sort of pick on how you split those.
I know a lot of people still like Arthur.
A lot of people still like Arthur. He's not my favorite. He's uninkable. He's slow. He still quests for 3, but I've got other guys that are going to quest for 3. I've got guys that are questing for 2. He's just a little bit slower in that regard, but certainly he's going to come down. He's going to do good things. If I can Arthur send something back and then bounce it with either a snake or a fox, then I'm pretty happy to protect 2 separate things that have quested for a good chunk as well. So that's another option there. Beyond that, I've got 2 Bosses on a Roll. This card has not seen a lot of play in meta decks so far. I think it's a interesting card because in a hyper aggro deck, I get to the end of the game, I need a couple more lore. Bosses on the Roll is going to get me a guaranteed lore, and it's going to help me dig for a goat or a Baloo or whatever it is that might be the most beneficial at that point. I've got 2 Rapunzels. The Rapunzels, again, the original list I was looking at actually had no Bosses on the Roll and 4 Rapunzels. I think Rapunzel is actually the most replaceable card in this list. You could put really anything that quests for 2 that survives well here. I don't think I drew off of Rapunzel a single time in the entire tournament today. So
She seems like a good option to have, though, but I mean, if you're not using her.
Yeah, I did also manage to dodge most steel matchups, so
Yep.
that's where Rapunzel's going to shine. The issue is that there's not a lot of options for Rapunzel to actually heal because so many things have so little health or willpower. We got our 4 goats. That's to be expected. I think that one's for an aggro deck here. That's probably the most self-explanatory card. And then we've got 4 of the Shift Kita. And the Shift Kita has a lot of really interesting lines that you can do with it. The best thing here is that it really helps out with like the challenging matchups, the ones that need to challenge your characters. So sometimes if you know your opponent has to challenge your characters, you can curve out things like 1-drop Pascal into turn 2. I'm going to play a Lilo and a Maleficent, and then maybe turn 3 I'm going to play Arthur. And this whole time, all I'm questing with is my evasive Pascal. Then on turn 4, I could take a Kita, play the Shift Kita, give everything -3 attack for up until my next turn, quest with Arthur, send the Kitas back to my hand, and do it again if I wanted to.
Yeah, and then you just constantly fog your opponent's board so they can't really deal with your guys. That's a really cool tech.
Yeah. So that one, and I'll give a shout out here to the person that created this deck. The list that I originally got was from Frank Karsten, I think his name is. He dabbled with Lorcana. I know he's a big Magic person, so I looked at the list, thought it was nice, and knew that lately in Tucson we've had a lot of red-blue, a lot of ruby amethyst, and so I figured that this was going to do very well into that, and that's what I played today. It was a whole bunch of red-blue and ruby amethyst.
Well, it paid off, and your hyper aggro deck was really cool. Thanks for sharing it with us, and now you have a incredibly expensive Stitch and a champion playmat that you can rep that you won here at IRL Cards. Thanks for coming, Justin. Appreciate
Thank you,
you.
Jordan.